right, guys, we are here for another jam session, and today is a jam session offsite from our normal REV studio. Welcome to Vancouver, BC, Canada, in the lovely home of our guest, our friend, our mentor, Dr. Sukhi Muker. Thank you so much for having us here today.
It's been so awesome.
Yeah, it's been fun. So we came here on Wednesday of this last week. We've been here for about 4 days. It's Sunday, and today is our jam session day. We got some kids running in the background right here, so you might hear some noise.
Yeah.
Pick up some audio.
Yeah.
I'm super excited for this conversation because we've been doing jam sessions now for about 9 months, and most of you guys know, and I've been watching these videos, we mention our mentor and friend, Dr. Suki, a lot in these things because
Here he is in the flesh.
he's been doing the work that we do for the last 25 years, correct? Has it been 25 years you've been doing this?
Yeah, it's my 25th year.
Yeah.
We keep saying every year, it's like he's been doing it 20 years.
47 years.
We don't even know.
We don't even know. And so the conversations that we have a lot with our community, we've learned so much from him. So to get it straight from the horse's mouth, straight from someone who's had so much more experience, I just think this conversation is going to be so palpably powerful and valuable for our community. So I'm just super excited.
And I just want to add to the introduction, this is not just our mentor, our friend. This is a very cherished soul in our lives. And I wouldn't say that we would be where we are or Rev would be where it is today without Suki.
100%.
Suki has just, for me in particular, meeting him and what he stands for, what he represents, who he be, unlocked something within me that I had always been wanting. And that's our hope for this podcast, these jam sessions, is to provide that for everyone listening. But this is what he brought to my life, to our life, and I'm just forever grateful.
Thank you, Mom. That just means the world to me. Thank you so much.
And he's got an awesome hat that he got gifted.
Wow, yeah.
I was just gifted this.
Yeah. For those of you that went to the immersion, you saw this hat. It was a 1 of 1, and it became a 1 of 2.
Rev on the
Got
back.
the Rev logo. Maybe we make a few more, maybe not. Probably. Cool. Did you want to start us off with the first part?
Oh,
What you wanted to
yeah.
share?
Okay. So something that I wanted to just begin with is this is our 4th time here
Mhm.
in Canada. So
Yeah.
traveling across all the way to be here from Tennessee. And this is the first time. So the first time we came here was 10 years ago.
I mean,
11
Probably
years
11,
ago?
11 years ago, yeah.
my eldest is 12 now. She was
2? Yeah.
2.
Okay, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's been 10 years ago, maybe like 8, then 6, and here we are.
Mhm.
This is the first time, so I'm 37 now, other time I was 27, where I actually noticed a palpable difference in my recovery from jet lag.
Mhm.
And I don't remember that ever being a thing before. And this is why I wanted to bring this up, is just for you and the age and your recovery and how you treat your body. And I just think a lot of people can be crippled by something like not even just jet lag, but just their age and how they recover and how they adapt differently than when they did 20, 30 years ago, basically.
Yeah.
And I think Suki is such an amazing person to kind of bring up this topic of this. And again, it's not about the jet lag, but for me, it was just magnified of how different it was this year than 10 years ago. Of just, I don't even remember it being a thing. I kind of didn't skip a beat basically once we arrived. Here I am. So I wanted you to kind of intro what it is for you as far as like recovery, treating your body differently than when you were in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s. So what it looks like now for you.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, I think the gift of both of you being here is that you've been able to step into Kate and I's world for the last 4 days. I mean, this is how we live.
Yeah.
And, no shocker for you two, but when you're immersed in it, you start to see that. And one of the big pieces for me is what's most important to me and what's most important to me and setting the intention for that. And so a lot of the things you see me doing every single day is not necessarily that thing, that tool, but it's like what's important to me. And we can get into that more, but like high level, as you mentioned your age, Mon, and I'm in my early 50s. And what I can say is that if I do something that doesn't cultivate and nurture my vitality, my life force, my energy, everything is magnified. And things get 25 years ago, if I was gaining a few pounds, in a few weeks, I could be back on
Mhm.
track. What used to take me a few weeks now will take several months. And I said this to you, Matt.
Mhm.
I go, for me, um, I'm a pretty high level athlete. I'm a pretty high level person committed to my journey and path. And it's way easier for me to sustain, maintain, enhance where I am versus go off the rails and come back
Yeah.
on. That
Mhm.
is such an uphill battle.
Yeah.
And I'll share with you one of the things my mentor said, who you guys know, Arno, the
Mhm.
late Arno.
Mhm.
Sounds crazy saying that,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
he said to me, he's like, Suki, he says to me like 25 years ago, he said, whatever you can do today, you can do tomorrow.
Mhm.
And that becomes incredibly more important as we age. But the moment we stop, the capacity and ability to get back to that as we age becomes more and more difficult.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So I feel like from a 10,000-foot view, we have to become, well, we don't have to, but if we choose to, we can become more responsible with the choices we make, and we get to experience the fruits of those efforts and that
Mhm.
energy versus being on the other side. I say this to people all the time. We can invest in our health, our well-being, our vitality upfront,
Mhm.
or we can pay for it on the other side.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And on the other side, there's a lot less guarantees. I mean,
Mhm.
you know this. I'm speaking to the
Yeah,
choir.
yeah,
There's a
totally.
lot
I
less
know, but
guarantees,
But a lot of
speak
people are
lot less
speaking.
guarantees.
Yeah.
There's a lot of heartache, a lot of pain, and it's such an uphill battle.
Yeah.
but people don't know. Maybe they don't even know to invest
Yeah.
because that hasn't been shown to them,
So
Yes,
right?
you're correct. 100% correct. Yeah.
So then the question is like if people are in their 20s and 30s, they're starting to get the inkling, they're watching this video, they're like, okay, yes, I can take care of myself and then I can start making those changes. I think it's easier in that place to like
Right.
start beginning to make change. So let's imagine someone's in their 40s and 50s, they have not been paying attention, but they've started
Yeah.
watching these jam sessions. They've
Right.
heard of you, they've
Yeah.
read some self-help books, they've started eating better, but it's still like there's a little bit of challenge. It was funny as we talk all the time. Like you've been coaching us for 10 years and we've had, a conversation once a month. So we've had over 120 conversations. So I kind of know where
Hey,
you're going to go.
like the math.
Thank you. Thank you.
He's so good with
Yeah,
that.
kept them round
Like,
number. I kept them round numbers like that.
Me,
Made
I'm
them
like,
easy.
yeah.
But like if someone is trying to do that, you've seen so much. Like what's been the most supportive for people in that phase to start making the shifts and changes that are really going to amplify their change? Because it could be really challenging for them to get out of
Mhm.
that state. What would you suggest to people in that state?
Okay. So just so I'm clear, what state are they in?
They're in their 40s, 50s. They've made decades of wrong decisions and
Okay.
choices,
Yeah.
and they're trying to get out. It's like that feeling of a lot of people like I'm too far gone kind
Yeah.
of thing. They
Yeah.
don't believe. I mean, how many people come into your office and like they don't have that hope, right? And
Yeah.
hope is the most important thing.
Yeah. It
So what would
is.
you say help in helping them to get to that phase where you have such a belief in like taking care of yourself and taking care of your body? What's the most important thing?
Before we do anything, I think the most important thing is to help people gain leverage. And so it's a simple question. It's like, hey, Matt, hey, Mon, what do you want?
Hmm.
Like, what do you
Yeah.
want? And the first thing people say, you know this, they talk about a laundry list of all the things wrong and they say,
Yeah,
I want these things to go
yeah,
away. And I'll come right out and, we've had conversations about this as I'm aging. I kind of, I hit people between the eyes. I don't beat around the bush anymore.
there's no time for that.
It's
There's no
not,
time for that.
you're
It's
not
just,
in your
I just,
20s anymore. Yeah.
I'm like, you don't want to get rid of that. They're
Hmm.
like, I don't. I'm like, no. I go, what would you do in the absence of your ache, your pain, your low energy, your fatigue, your illness, your
Yeah,
disease? It's like, what do you want? Not what you don't want, but what do you want? And so if that piece for people is an ache or a pain or an illness, it's thinking, if this was removed, who would I become?
Hmm.
And the first place that starts for me is I have, again, such a deep reverence and respect for the intelligence within us. I say this all the time. I'm going to remind you, I'm going to remind the viewers. It's like there's an intelligence within us that takes us from 2 cells to 100 trillion cells in 40 weeks inside our mother's body. That intelligence never abandons us. It stays with us for the rest of our life. And for me, it's about connection to this mind body temple. And we talked about this, Matt.
Mhm.
For me, I feel like we as humanity have lost our way with these tools.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, I meditate, I exercise, I eat well. If we're renovating a home, once the renovation's done,
Mhm.
you don't need the hammer, nails, and lumber anymore.
Mm.
But if you keep the hammer, nails, lumber going, the renovation lasts forever.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
you don't get to enjoy this beautiful renovated home,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
Same thing with the tools. So that's what the tools are for me. I'm not like about the tools. Do I utilize them? 100%. But my relationship with them is, what do I want? I want connection. I want vitality.
Mm.
I want energy. I want to feel joy. I want to feel love, compassion, gratitude in my heart. And I know that's what I want. And these are the things that I do to cultivate
Mhm.
that relationship here. So, the biggest thing for people and why they get off the train is they don't have leverage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's huge.
So we can say, hey, you need to start meditating every day for 10 minutes. And they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah,
they
yeah.
don't, if they don't have leverage,
Why?
guess what?
Yeah, yeah.
After a week or 10 days, they're done.
Mhm.
Yeah, I tried that meditation stuff. It doesn't work. Right?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Because they don't have, so it's like really helping people understand, what do you want?
Yes.
Mom, this is
Mhm.
your life.
Yeah.
This is your one life here. Negotiable.
Yeah.
Another
Next
conversation.
Next conversation. What do you want, at least in this life, in this mind, in this body?
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
want?
Yeah.
And getting people to really look at that. Because here's what we know through statistics, we know this. As we age, if we don't cultivate and nurture our well being from within, we know the mortality and morbidity rates.
Mhm.
And we can scientifically say there is a very high probability this is what your life will be like in your 50s, in your 60s, in your 70s. And you have this experience. Someone walks into their 40s, you know what that person can look like in their 70s because
Mhm.
you've seen it the day before
Mhm.
with this other person
Right.
who has been on the journey for 30 years. I mean,
Mhm.
what a gift for
Mhm.
people to walk into your space
Yeah.
and have that knowledge and wisdom that you have. So it's like helping people get that
Yeah.
and understand that. Like, what's the leverage point for them?
That's the biggest thing because with goal setting or whatever you were going to get into
Mm.
goal setting, right?
Yeah, yeah.
With him, yeah, like I think that's the biggest thing is like the meditation. Oh, my friend said I should do this, or my friend should I should eat this, but then they just fall off the bandwagon and then it doesn't happen. So I think
Yeah.
that is the biggest thing that people can take from this too is just being like, why am I doing that? Like, so I'll sit down with people, and this one woman was telling me, she was like, I just really want to lose 40 pounds. Like,
Right.
and she was like, my goal is to be a light to people. Like, I just want to shine my light and make people's day.
Yeah.
But she was like, but I'm choosing to have these bad, and I talked about this in the immersion, I'm choosing to have these bad snacks. Like, I work at the hospital and I'll choose a Snickers when I'm hungry, or I'll blah blah blah. And I'm like, can you bring your own snacks? And she's like, even if I have my own snacks, I'm choosing this. So she
Mhm.
can't get out of this habit. Her goal is to not do that. Her goal
Mhm.
is to lose this weight. And so then I was like, so if this were me, I would tune into my leverage of, I if I have this snack right here, then I'm going to feel bad. Then when I feel bad, I'm talking to my coworker Susie, I'm not present. I'm not shining my light because I'm bogged down. And that was the only thing that hit her as far as the leverage, that she should not choose the Snickers or not choose the donut that she always does versus
Right.
knowing she just shouldn't, because she knows she
Right.
shouldn't. You
Right.
know what I mean? So I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing that people can take and change their life with that,
Right.
that next step.
And I think that you would have something really valuable to share with it because that's leveraging pain, right? Because you can do it leverage in two different ways.
Yeah.
You can leverage with the thought of what it is that you truly, truly want. I feel like
Yeah.
that's a higher vibrational
Yeah.
place to be.
Yeah.
But some people can't necessarily get there right
Yeah.
away. So
No.
they have to leverage like, I've seen my dad, my mom, my grandparents
Yeah.
at 70,
Yeah.
80 go through this pain. So almost
Mhm.
like there is a balancing act almost within that.
Yeah.
So do you have any thoughts on leveraging pain points versus pleasure points?
That's a good conversation.
That's a great conversation. And typically, Matt, it starts with pain
Yeah,
points. Pain points is easier because
much easier.
it's
Yeah,
like there for you. You can
right in
see
the
it.
Yeah,
face.
you don't want to touch the hot thing, like so.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You don't touch the hot stove, so you
yeah.
want to keep your hand away
Hmm.
from it. The pain points are easier. And what I'll also share is that the pain points and the leverage with the pain is much more of an uphill journey.
Hmm.
It's much more of a struggle. It's much more arduous. When we move to what we're trying to move towards, there's way more grace, there's way more flow. It's like trying to push a boulder up a hill
Hmm.
versus push a boulder down the hill. We're
Mhm.
still moving in the same
Hmm.
direction, but that's what happens. So most people start with a pain point, but eventually, as the boulder starts to move, we start to crest the hill,
Mhm.
and then we start to begin pushing it down the hill. I mean, my greatest gift was I lost my health and well being when I was 18.
Yeah.
And we know this. If
Mhm.
somebody has, let's say, a terminal prognosis, cancer, severe autoimmune disease, whatever it is, depression, anxiety, and they get to the other side of it, their life is never the same.
Hmm.
And you just said it. What about that 40-year-old, 40s, 50s? They haven't really had a health crisis.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've been pretty good. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
probably 15, 25 pounds overweight, but I'm no spring chicken.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
so
No,
it's
yeah.
like we know those people,
Yeah.
right? And it's very difficult for them because they haven't had a crisis.
Mhm.
For me, you guys know I've had two. I had one at 18, and then for whatever reason, the universe had to remind me I had another one at 48.
Hmm.
So it's like I've had two major health crises.
Mhm.
And so, with that, I feel it becomes easier when you have that crisis.
Yeah.
And with those other people, in the end, we get to choose.
Yeah.
Like every person gets to choose. The person sitting in front of you gets to choose. The person watching this gets to choose. We cannot want it more for them.
Yeah.
And I spent my early years like
Yeah.
wanting it so much more.
Yeah.
And I realized
Right.
like this is going to destroy me because I can't want it more
Hmm.
than they actually want it.
I want to go back to the pain point thing because this is actually, I'm like really realizing. So, and I've realized this a while ago. I was such a high level athlete because of my pain point.
Hmm.
Right.
I didn't want to get yelled at by my coach, or I didn't want to be suffering when I was sprinting. So I would be training to be, so I
Right.
wouldn't be at the back of the line or
Yeah.
whatever. Even in my family dynamics, I saw my older sister get punished or yelled at.
Right.
So I didn't do the things that she did,
I endured
which
it.
made me a different child because
Yeah.
of it and different paths. So for someone like me who actually is very sensitive to those pain points, which
Yeah.
is I'm I'm very good at that. That's why with that woman, the pain point was that I can clearly articulate it.
Right.
But how do we transition from the pain point
Yeah.
to what's the opposite of that? And like for instance, let's use the woman with the example of choosing the sweets when she doesn't want to and
Okay.
losing the weight.
Yeah.
So the pain point, she clearly understands that.
Yeah.
How can she now transition to the opposite of that? Yeah.
Yeah. And so the transition to the opposite, she said she wants to lose 40 pounds,
Hmm.
right?
But underneath it, she wants to
Feel
shine.
vibrant.
She wants to
She
shine.
wants to be vital and to shed the light with everyone. That's really what it's about. And the weight is just a
So
byproduct.
that's really the piece.
Yeah.
That's the North Star.
Hmm.
And so then it's looking at like, what does that body composition look like? What does that daily choice look like? What does that lifestyle look like? Who does she have to become in order to experience those things she's
Mm.
experiencing? The more time she can spend every day in the awareness, where our attention goes, our energy and consciousness flows. And we can bring physics into it, waves collapsing as particles, becoming that. It's like we begin to embody that. What happens at a neurological level, the 40-pound heavier version of this person, those neural networks and patterns begin to unwire, begin to unfire.
Hmm.
And new neural networks and patterns start to fire and wire. But when we understand it from a neurological standpoint, it makes so much sense of why the pain model leverage will never work because we're
Still
stuck
focusing on
in
that.
the neural network and programming of what we don't want. We're actually not creating a new neural network and program. Do you remember that show, The Biggest Loser?
Mm-hmm.
Loved it.
So I don't know if people know this, but I read a stat and they said over 80% of contestants in The Biggest Loser within 1 year gain the weight back.
I lost the support, lost the intention, lost all the people.
Their set point.
Their set point was
I believe it's the conversation we're having right now.
Yeah.
There is so like that whole show, they get on a scale, how much weight did you lose?
Yeah.
It's all about moving away from something versus moving towards something. So let's take a step back in what we know. Let's talk about the nervous system, neural networks and programs. And so that never change. Of course, they gain the weight back. So we have to allow these new networks, these new programs begin to fire in new sequences, begin to wire. And this is why, the work you guys get to do at REV is facilitating exactly that. It's integrating these old patterns and creating this space and bandwidth and capacity to create new networks and programs so then people can more easily step into that. I mean, that's the gift of it.
I would be interested to see also what it looks like after a year, because I don't really believe in backtracking because these people got a taste of, let's say, losing 100, 200 pounds. They gain, like the pain is now stronger and the awareness is there to where it's the level of suffering is to me unbearable, to where it could propel you forward or go a different direction. But I would love to hear the rest of the stat.
Follow up 10 years later.
I don't know the full story there, but that was an interesting statistic I read when that show was at its peak.
Totally. I think you said something interesting that I think there's a takeaway from it. Spending time every day, how much time you can spend. And like anyone knows that like our kids are in athletics, right? And so the more they practice, the better they're going to be. If they only spend 5 minutes a day doing something or 5 minutes every week, the level of increase in gain of athleticism or ability to do hockey or soccer, whatever it may be, is only going to be a fraction if they spent 30 minutes every single day. So spending that time in the feeling of that woman, like feeling abundant, feeling vital. And then when you feel that more and more, then our actions then follow. And we do more of those things in our daily practice until eventually our nervous system not knowing the difference if I'm doing it, consciously in my mind, that you actually become that person.
You become that person.
Is the most important way to do is just spending time as consistently as possible, leveraging your pain at first, but then leveraging like, no, this is where I'm moving towards. And if we're moving towards a goal, that is progress. And that's all we're here to do, right? To progress. Because if we're not progressing, we're dying.
And for me, progress is a definition of happiness. If you're 100 pounds overweight and now you're only 70 pounds overweight, that person's happy.
But if they're like, I'm not 100, but if they focus on, I'm not there yet, that feeling is just going to not feel good.
And the other thing I'll say is that everything is a process. Like,
which you're so good at really
everything. Like if someone shaves their head and they say, hey Matt, I want to grow my hair long halfway down my back. I'm like, yeah, cool. We'll see you in 2.5 years. Yeah. Right. Like it's,
I know I had a pixie. Yes.
It's like cell regeneration is a process or process. I don't know what they say in the States.
Canada,
but
process.
Yeah. Potato.
Yeah. You said something earlier, shifting subjects, about you had a crisis at 18. The way you grew up on the other side of the tracks led you to a certain lifestyle. Something happened a couple years ago, another crisis. When we met you, I'll briefly share the story with you. We've shared it before, not with you, but with our community. We were in Haiti on the mission trip, and I thought you were a Dominican bag boy because you asked to help us.
So we were in Dominican
Republic on a mission trip.
We did go to Haiti, but that moment we were in.
Oh yeah, we're in Dominican. He was one of 5 chiropractors on the trip. Me and Monica were 2 of 50 chiropractic students, and he's like sees me me, grabbing everything, and he's like, "Oh, I'll help you with your bags." And I didn't like really look at him, but I just kind of saw the color of his skin. I thought he was one of the guys looking for a tip,
Thought he
right?
was a bag.
Thought he was a bag
I
boy.
was a bag boy.
I was like,
I
"No,
was a
thank
bag
you,
boy.
no, thank you, bro." And then later he's speaking up in front of me. I'm like, "Oh shit, he wasn't a bag boy. He was like a doctor."
I will say, as soon as he spoke, my soul, I don't know, I
Yeah.
knew,
Yeah.
and you were like, Monica, just go.
Yes. So long story short, he's doing his thing. I think he's this crazy guy working with energy because at that point in time, I thought people that did that were very out there, very woo woo. Got to know you, and just like you're listening to him, he's a normal human being, a cool human being. He's an Iron Man guy, philanthropist. A bunch of different things that led me to the realization he's not a crazy person. And so we talk more about how he's working with energy. Obviously, fast forward a decade later, we're now doing the same thing, working with energy. But you had such an understanding of energy. We
Mhm.
talked about quantum physics. It was a part of your life. And then the question I want to ask you is that we just had an immersion where I brought up the first law of thermodynamics: energy can't be created or destroyed; it can only be transformed from
Right.
within, right?
Right.
And so your life experiences is a vibration and energy coming in,
Mhm.
and they've all been opportunities. We've learned that from you. We've learned
Yeah.
that from quantum physics. We've learned that in our own life. We've learned that with working with people.
Right.
So you've had major crises in your
Mhm.
life.
Right.
Some people haven't had major crises, but they've
Yeah.
had tons of experiences that have come in. I'd like to know from you and your standpoint and your understanding of energy, your reverence for energy, your understanding for life. How have you taken that information trying to synthesize this in a simple way, and like, again, all these experiences are just opportunities, and like moving through those to grow through those experiences? Like, I know it's a big question because you've had so much stuff happen in your life, but
Yeah.
any advice for people that have gone through stuff, like how can they know, like, hey, this has been an opportunity for me, not to hurt me,
Right.
essentially? Yeah, what's been
Yeah.
your journey in that?
Yeah. So as this plane goes by,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Man, edit that out.
we got the windows open
Yeah.
here, looking out. Um, One of the things I'll say is that there was a big monologue there about you sharing who I was, and for me, where I was at a young age, I tried everything. I tried everything. I did what the good docs told me to do. I took the meds. I did everything. Nothing worked. And this is, we're going back. Like, I was born in the early 70s. So, we're talking like this is pre internet. So you couldn't like Google something.
Hmm.
And I started delving into what we call alternative practitioners.
Can you tell me what you were experiencing to where the good, like the medical, they were recommending something?
Yeah.
What were you experiencing exactly?
So I had a nervous breakdown. I had incredible anxiety. I lived with depression for almost a decade, and probably about 7 of those years I was suicidal.
Hmm.
And I had 3 attempts at suicide before the age of 20. So I was 18, 19 years old. And those thoughts stayed with me pretty much through my early 20s.
Hmm.
Didn't share them. And, meds and traditional type counseling and things like this. And it wasn't until I started working with somebody who's a gifted practitioner that was working on my nervous system that I started to get some real traction.
Mm.
And so during all this, I got my life back on track. I was back in school and I was studying, I was doing my undergrad and essentially living a whole life, new world. I said goodbye to my old world, said goodbye to my closest friends who I'd lived with since I was
Hmm.
13 years old, like family, because I just didn't want that life anymore. Why am I saying all this? I'm saying all this because I can not only empathize, but I can sympathize with people who have experienced capital T trauma
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
because I've experienced capital T trauma.
Mm.
I feel you. I do not want to minimize the impact of that stress and that trauma that you've experienced.
Hmm.
If we fast forward a little bit, in order for me to do this, the way my mind works, I had to understand. And that's what led me down the journey of understanding neurology, physiology, and this beautiful thing called physics, specifically quantum physics. And once I started to dance in this little triangle of neurology, physiology, and quantum physics, things began to make sense. So, quantum physics says every experience, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, chemical, is just a bunch of atoms that are coming at us, coming at our perceptual system, which you know is our nervous system. And so I took a step back, and when I started understanding neurology, I'm like, well, what's the point of the nervous system? And the traditional education system, the point of the nervous system is to regulate homeostasis. Homeostasis, we know, is just to keep the system where it's at. Like if you're outside and it's hot, your nervous system activates sweat glands, you start sweating, your core temperature comes down, you return to homeostasis. So
We were
that's a
sweating
simple
yesterday on
example.
the bikes.
We were
big
sweating
time.
yesterday on the bikes.
Lion,
big time.
Lion was definitely sweating on that bike, working that
Lion.
thing.
Oh my Lion. Matt and Monica's little girl, beast. Beast.
We had to go up a big hill.
We had to go up this bridge, okay? Brasserie Bridge. We're going from like the west side of Vancouver to downtown Vancouver. I go, Lion, I was time to go. Stay on my wheel. And I'm going up and I turn around and she's like, "Arr, arr," and she's like, her little feet are pedaling.
Tall,
She's like, she's like 6 years old.
Yeah.
She's like in beast mode. And I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm like, Matt, Monica, Lion, yeah, you got nothing to worry about there. Yeah, you got nothing to worry about. She's like beast mode.
So her homeostasis is working well.
Her homeostasis is working well.
Yeah.
So now to make a really long story really short, here's what I'll say. The nervous system is a learning technology.
Mm-hmm.
And if we think about it, it's like, we give our children bicycles with training wheels. Well, eventually the training wheels come off. Eventually they can ride a bike. What happens neurologically there? The nervous system develops proprioception. It develops balance, coordination, turning the wheel. Essentially, it develops a new network and program from this experience called learning how to ride a bike. The same can be said for anything that's a little bit stressful, like Lion going up Broad Street Bridge. That was a little bit stressful for maybe even a little T, traumatic. Maybe, because at the top she was
crying
like,
and smiling at the same time.
She was like crying and smiling at the same time. Maybe we invoke some little T trauma. Just so people watching know, my daughters are 9 and 12. So Ocean's the same age as Rocky, and Indira is 12 years old. And so I have a unique relationship with stress and trauma and my understanding of it. So now let's talk about capital T trauma. It's not pretty. I've experienced it. Many people listening have experienced it. There's nothing good that we can see about the actual experience. Mm-hmm. But when we can get past the emotion of the actual experience and understand what's actually taking place, a bunch of atoms are coming into my system. And if we use the concept of learning to ride a bike, these atoms are here to come in to cultivate and nurture the development, the evolution and growth of the nervous system, which is neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. Mm-hmm. I can say in my early 50s, if I did not experience what I experienced when I was 18 years old, I would not know you two. Mm-hmm. I would not be doing what I'm doing. I would not be the way I am. I wouldn't be the husband. I wouldn't be the father. I wouldn't be the human being. I wouldn't be the doc that I am today if I didn't experience that. Yeah. But that's an example of taking capital T trauma and allowing my nervous system to go through the neurogenesis, the neuroplasticity, the growth, the evolution, the increase in bandwidth, the consciousness, which ultimately is integration, mm-hmm. which is the foundation of my work. The foundation of your work is to facilitate that integration. Now, when we're on the other side of it, we know we've arrived there when we can think about these traumatic experiences and there's no emotional hook. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. A woman came in recently. She'd been divorced. Divorce was 12 years ago. She's like, oh yeah, but that was 12 years ago. It's done. Mm-hmm. And I just said, okay, cool. So when you think about divorce today, what comes up to you? Oh, I get angry. I'm like, yeah, sorry, you haven't integrated it yet. Your nervous system thinks you're getting divorced right now. The nervous system does not know the difference between past, present, future.
And she's like, no, I'm fine.
It's like, well, you just told me you got angry, so you're not fine.
Yeah.
If you're angry, you're not at homeostasis.
Right.
So the nervous system is trying to now you can be like, yeah, like that person's an a-hole, they're not nice, but there's no charge.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, yeah, I'm choosing not to have that person in my life,
Right.
but I have peace.
Yeah.
I'm prioritizing peace because it's part of my growth and evolution.
Yeah.
So for me, every experience, no matter a little bit stressful, little t trauma, capital T trauma, yeah, it sucks. And I understand it has the greatest seed because when we think about the nervous
Mhm.
system, these areas of unintegrated information, physics says there's stored patterns within the autonomic nervous system of potential energy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, science says little t, capital T trauma is potential energy.
Totally.
So when I say it's an opportunity, I didn't come up with that. Science said that. I'm like, oh, it's just potential energy. And once we begin to shift that into kinetic energy, energy and flow, the nervous system wires, fires, creates new networks and programs, expands its bandwidth, expands consciousness. As we know, the nervous system's our perceptual lens. So we start to look at the world differently.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest thing working with people and just the collective consciousness around any sort of trauma is, I think, I want you to speak to being a victim
Okay.
versus being a conscious creator, but I would say it's really hard. I think the collective consciousness is that this happened, this happened to me. And I think that stepping out of the victimhood is the bridge to integration, would you say? Or do you think that can happen? Well, I just want you to kind of speak to that a little bit because I think that's a
Yeah.
big thing.
Everything's a process.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's a journey. So one doesn't decide to step out of victimhood and now they're integrating.
Enlightened
Yeah.
in one moment.
They're enlightened
You
in
know
one
what?
month. Not everyone's like you, Matt.
I'm not gonna do this. It's a tough job, but I carry the load.
Matt carries it all. Not everyone's built like
Not
Matt.
everyone's.
But
Let me go.
but yeah, so how I speak to that is so victimhood is it's a network and program. It is a consciousness. And as that starts to integrate, process, we learn and grow from it, we begin to move away from victimhood to possibility, to hope, to who we're becoming. And that's a journey. And one has to be willing to, I mean, like, how cool is it what you guys do, what we do? Yeah, all you gotta do is lay on the table. That's it. Just lay on the table.
Mhm.
Like, that's it. Breathe. Close your eyes. I mean, that's it.
Just rest.
That's it.
Yeah.
Just rest. Like, that's all you gotta do. Like, that's it. Like, we're not asking you to like climb a 100-foot pole
Yeah, yeah.
and stand on the top, with no safety harness. Like,
300 burpees, your favorite.
yeah,
Yep.
do 300 burpees like Matt here. Like, no, we're not asking like it's not, it's like so.
Mhm.
And I believe that the universe consciously created that. They've
Mhm.
made it so simple.
Yeah.
So simple.
And I think the bridge that I wanted to make when we had the immersion and we shared that, it's like if something traumatic is happening in the moment, it's not like in that moment, 99.99% of people aren't going to be like, this is going to be beautiful. This is going to be
Yeah.
awesome. I'm so grateful for this
Yeah.
experience. It's like, okay, have the experience. But I think something that's been helpful for us is that like navigating those things. It's like, wow, well, this kind of sucks. This is challenging because we can be real human beings
Didn't see
and
this
didn't see
coming.
this coming, but very quickly trying to ask ourselves or say, even in a joking way, like, can't wait to see what comes from this,
Yeah.
right? And I think some people don't have those experiences to know
Yeah.
that that's the case. But I think the tool that you can use in those moments, because again, you don't always need the tool, you don't always need the hammer, but sometimes we made the analogy last night, the shelf falls over or something breaks and you need to fix that.
Yeah.
Using that tools of going into a quiet space, seeing this experience. And I just love that you communicated all that in such a beautiful way, because it really is. This is science. This is how life works. This is how our biology works. And bridging all those things together, I feel like you can eventually get the tool, get the knowing, which is the reverence, right? And you only get reverence through
Huge.
life experience,
Yeah.
essentially. So
Yeah.
we need these things to
Well,
happen.
knowledge and then the life experience.
Yes, knowledge first.
from
Yeah.
that. I think everyone goes through a moment of Well, I don't think people know that they cannot be a victim. I think that's
Yeah.
the biggest thing is that
Yeah.
when I first
Yeah.
learned about that, it was a big moment of as far as then when something happened, oh, I have a choice to be like, this is
Right.
happening to me versus this is happening for me. And at first, when we were learning this, just had met Suki, it was kind of like just saying words as
Mhm.
far as like, can't wait to see what happens here,
And not really believe it.
and just I don't know what's gonna happen. And now at this point, it's programmed in us of just like very excited to
You
see
need to
what's
get
gonna
a
happen at this
you
point.
yeah.
It's just a knowing. But I think at the beginning, it's not natural
No.
to do that. So I think it does. And kind of like even gratitude, like I would have to write out my gratitude every morning. I would have
Yeah.
like a list of 50 things. And now
Yeah.
I don't have to do that because I became that. So I think there is always a period of time that you have to invest a little bit more into these new ways of being.
Yeah.
And then it becomes you, but it's worth every moment. But you have to learn that that's a possibility first. So the education knowledge is pivotal.
It
Literally creating
is.
new neural
Yeah.
networks
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
becoming a person.
Yeah.
Possibilities, hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe strongly, you've heard me say this, education drives the experience.
Mhm.
Hmm.
That's what it was for me. If I didn't understand this, I wouldn't be able to do it because my mind wouldn't let me.
Hmm. Right.
It's like my favorite course, subject in school was math. Like I need to like understand
Yeah.
things,
Mhm.
but once I understand it, it's like it's
Yeah.
locked.
Yeah.
It's like when 2 plus 2 equals 4, someone's like, no, 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 actually equals 3. You're like, no, it doesn't.
It's debatable these days.
More.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so kind of shifting subjects. We've kind of been dancing all around it, but I want to ask this
Yeah.
question in a unique way that maybe it brings something else up. And you've been doing this work, working with people hands-on, 25 years. People come into you with depression, anxiety, PTSD, cancer, autoimmune things. You've seen the gamut. You've seen so many people. You've worked with so many people. You've supported so many people. If you had to funnel down disease, disconnection, dissonance within the body to a root cause for someone's life, why they manifested and created that in their life, could you narrow it down to one common theme or thing that they have experienced or not doing in their life or not connecting to in their
The root
life?
cause
The
of
root cause of
disease,
The root
disease.
cause
The
of
root cause of
disease.
disease
basically.
globally.
Yeah. It's a disconnection from the life force within us.
Which
That's
happens how?
We've been dancing around
yeah,
it.
which happens how. Well, I know you guys know.
Maybe we don't.
Maybe we don't.
JK, JK.
Well,
From your experience, because we share this.
right.
I want to hear from you.
Different voice.
Different
A
voice.
different voice, how it is. So we have an experience. Life is constantly guiding us, constantly unfolding for us, our growth, our evolution. It's why we go to school. It's why we learn things. It's why we have relationships. It's why we experience what we experience. And an experience happens and we get locked in that experience. So when we get locked in that experience, the nervous system, I said earlier, it stays in the biology of that experience because it wants to grow and evolve from it.
Mhm.
And as a result of that, some of the intelligence and life force that regulates through your nervous system that's trying to maintain homeostasis has now been rerouted to begin this integration process with that program pattern, capital T, little t, trauma experience. And as a result of that, what happens is we're slightly disconnected. And what that looks like in our world is over time, guess what? That cup of coffee in the morning, it's great, but around 11 a.m., I'm like exhausted.
Yeah.
So I have another cup of coffee. And then several months later, you come home from work and you just don't feel as happy and excited. And all of a sudden, you have to have a glass of wine. And eventually, that turns into a half a bottle. It's just like constantly trying to do something from the outside
Hmm.
to experience something on the inside. Meanwhile, the patterns continue to build and the disconnection continues to perpetuate. And we know this as these patterns build, the intelligence and life force is still there, but we're brand new every 7 years. And again, some say 50 trillion, some say 150 trillion. I like to say 100 trillion cells that make us up. Every 7 years are brand new. they regenerate, they reorganize. Your heart's brand new every 6 months. Your liver brand new every 3 months. Your skin's brand new every two weeks. Your GI lining is brand new every 9 months. So like we're constantly turning over through cell regeneration. Every bone in your body is brand new every 36 months. So like to me, that turns its head on osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, because it's like, well, wait a second. If your bones are brand new, arthritis shouldn't perpetuate, which again, we're stepping out of the allopathic understanding because that's a disease symptom management system when we talk about real health and vitality. But that disconnection happens, and that disconnection doesn't allow the intelligence to tell the cells how to regenerate, how to reorganize. And you've heard me say this a lot, is that cell shape dictates cell function. When you came here, I picked you up from the airport and the wheels on the vehicle are round. Imagine if those wheels were square.
Take a lot longer to get
Take
here.
a lot longer to get here,
Might not
right?
make it.
But it's a silly example. Of course they wouldn't make square wheels because they don't roll down the street well. Well, your cardiac muscle is different than your skeletal muscle versus your osseous muscle versus your neurological tissue. Everything has a specific cell shape structure. So remember, it always starts as an energy issue within the nervous system. And if not addressed, it develops into a tissue issue. You guys been saying, I've been doing this for 25 years. I've never addressed the tissue issue. I use the tissue issue to understand what's occurring in the nervous system, which is the energy issue, correct that, the tissue regenerates, reorganize with the correct shape, structure, function, magically goes away. But the goal and intention is to never get rid of the tissue issue. The goal and intention is to return the person to homeostasis, where cells and tissues have the correct shape, structure, function. And when they're there, all these things that people walk in with laundry lists. I'm a last resort person for so many people. And it's like, yeah, they come in with like, I have people come in with files this thick. I'm like, that's great. I read the Merck manual. And tell your folk what the Merck manual is. I've read the Merck manual. This is like, there is an absence of homeostasis.
Right.
I get it. All right. I'm not an allopath doc. Thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
And then they lay down on your tables for 30 to 60 minutes a week. They lay down on our tables. They go to a seminar from Joe Dispenza and they meditate for multiple hours and they get into that beautiful state. And all those things start going away because they connected to that bigger symphony and harmony in their own nervous system. And people call them miracles, right?
They call them miracles. Yeah. And when they start to do that, their intelligence starts to speak to them. Then, like this woman you mentioned earlier, there is no craving for the Twinkies anymore. Because you actually were repelled by it. Because now the intelligence, you're getting more connected. It's speaking to your mind, body, temple shifting. So the choices you're making become easier. Remember I said about leverage? You're actually repelled from it. Versus like trying to, oh man, I want that Twinkie, but I'm just not gonna eat it.
Right.
You know, like
Right.
it's like, ugh, I don't want that Twinkie.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you just kind of push that away. So then what starts to happen is then we start living a lifestyle that cultivates and nurtures our intelligence and life force. And then that is like, you know, sprinkling magic dust in the whole process and journey. You can tell we have children.
We have children.
We are children.
And hopefully you can also tell from this conversation, you know, the 120 based on my quick napkin math conversations that we've had, like these are conversations that are still exciting for us, even 10 years into the making. And like I'll ask you questions and like, I know the answer and you'll share. I'm like, I know that, but there's like another layer in it as well. So we have had so many conversations that go in line with the body, the healing process, working with people. But then the other piece that I think that would be huge value to our community, because once they're out of the pain, they're creating more health, they want more in
Mhm.
life, right? We are here in Vancouver, BC, Canada. We're looking over outside, and hopefully we can get a video of this of the Atlantic, the Pacific Ocean. Wait, Atlantic Ocean?
Pacific.
Pacific.
Pacific. I
Yep.
always mess up.
Pacific.
Pacific, man.
Pacific. Come on,
Pacific.
bro.
I live in Tennessee. I'm landlocked. You know, I'm like in the moment. I'm like, shit. Which one is it? The
Yeah.
Pacific Ocean
Yeah.
in a beautiful, gorgeous home. We kind of alluded to it. You lived on the wrong side of the tracks, and East Vancouver had a challenging life, and you've been able to create this really beautiful home with your amazing wife, Kate. You have two children, which, by the way, Kate is an equally amazing human being. That next time you guys
We're
are in
gonna have Kate.
Chattanooga, we're gonna have her on the podcast to
Cool.
have her own unique perspective, because she is just incredible, and I can't wait to do
She's a
that.
powerhouse.
So you've been able to come from a very low vibrational place and state in life and really create abundance in your life. Abundance just isn't a nice home and a nice place, right?
Yeah.
You have abundance in your relationships, abundance in your health, abundance in your all sorts of different things. So
Yeah.
when people talk about setting intentions and goals, but then also something that we talk about as well is allowing and surrendering. There's this sometimes this like wishy-washy place that people don't know where to be. Like, how do I want something but then let it go as well? So you have so much years of experience and wisdom. Like, what advice would you give to people when they're wanting to intend, they're wanting to create, but then also balancing that with like surrendering to the flow of life,
Right.
which we've had so many conversations with? So again, as best you can synthesize it.
Yeah. Well, if we just talk about, to segue into this new topic from our old topic, is that typically people start with trying to get rid of something.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it started for me. I felt like shit. I didn't want to feel like shit anymore.
Yeah.
I wanted to feel good.
Simple guy.
Simple man.
I just
I don't
was
feel like
like
shit.
depressed, suicidal, fatigued, no energy. Life sucked. I didn't want to feel that way.
Yeah.
I wanted to feel
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
So that's how it starts for everybody.
Totally.
Right. But eventually it gets to the point, and this is the fascinating thing, is that for me, when all that goes away, I actually believe that's where the journey starts,
Mm.
because people refer to me as the human potential guy.
Mm-hmm. They do.
I'm the human potential guy. No, it's, yeah, because like we are moving towards different things. We're moving towards that. Now, if I come back to what you shared, Matt, I have a really interesting relationship with goals.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because, you see, when we set a goal, we are foreshadowing to a point in the future where we want to achieve something. But right now, we're right here. We haven't achieved that goal. So I haven't become the person who is worthy of fully experiencing that outcome or goal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to journey on this path. And what's going to happen is exactly what we've been talking about. My nervous system's going to grow. It's going to evolve. It's going to increase bandwidth. My vibrational frequency is going to increase. And as a result of that, all of a sudden, we're going to move to a place where that goal is actually achieved. But in the journey of that, can you see how that expansion of our nervous system and awareness and consciousness allows us to become a different person? So for me, I believe, for me personally, when I set a goal and intention, I'm actually not a big goal setter. I'm an intention setter.
Yeah.
And this goes against, I've read the books on goal setting. Be very specific. If you want a certain amount of money, right to the penny, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, that's interesting, because when you're on the journey of it, you become a different person. So you're going to relook at what that goal is. Like, you've grown and evolved. You're not the same person you were 6 weeks ago, 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's about being more intentional with who you're becoming and being so engaged in the process and journey of becoming that.
Yeah.
Because here's what I'll say, you know, with somebody who's raised, I'm Canadian, originally I'm Indian, born in Scotland, raised in Canada. And so like my heritage is Indian, my nationality is Canadian, And somehow I have Great Britain in there as if I ever got deported.
Good to know.
Okay, I was like, I don't know how all that works, but the piece I'll share is that so I have elements of being somebody from like say North America, Canadian, US, but there's this deep sort of understanding of ancient Indian wisdom that has emerged from me over the
Mhm.
decades. And so when we start setting these intentions and we start moving towards things, we start to change. And what became abundantly clear for me was that it was never about the goal. Because here's the thing, when we set a goal and we achieve the goal, what happens? We just set another one
Mhm.
and another one and another one. And
Yeah.
what's that? That's the hamster wheel of life.
Mhm.
That's the grind. I don't want to be in the grind.
Mhm.
I want to be living life,
Yeah.
not when this, when
Mhm.
that. And we talked about this last night. We
Mhm.
know this. And this is so difficult. This was so difficult for me.
Mhm.
This took, I feel I'm on the other side of this.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
Finally, I feel I'm on the other side
You
of this.
You
graduated
have
finally.
arrived?
Yeah, I've graduated that piece. Okay. But for most of my life, I was on the ungraduated side.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what I'll say is that life is meant to be lived. Life is a process, life is a journey. And I know this is cliche, but if we can really honor life is happening right here, right now, in this moment.
Mhm.
That's it. The future hasn't occurred.
Yeah.
And let's talk about fear and faith for a moment. Fear and faith require the same mechanisms neurologically and through physics. They do.
Mhm.
There are putting our attention, which is our energy and life force, between two things that are invisible. So we get to choose.
Yeah.
It can be fear or it can be faith, which is
Mhm.
hope.
Yeah.
The Science of Hope says three things. One, we believe the future will be better than our present. Two, we have agency. We have the greatest technology on planet Earth living inside us.
Mhm.
So everybody has agency.
Yeah.
Three, are we willing to roll up our sleeves and step into faith, trust, hope?
Mhm.
And that's a choice.
Mhm.
That's where most people miss the mark.
Mhm.
And so for me, in achieving these different things, and yeah, it's extreme. I was raised in the poorest, you call it zip code, let's say the poorest zip code
Mhm.
in Canada, which is
Mhm.
actually postal code,
Mhm.
to living in the most affluent zip code and all the things a person has to go through to become that. From like education, not just finances, but education, socialization, relationships, like everything. Like complete, like I'm not the same person that I
Mhm.
was then.
Mhm.
Really honoring that. That's what a goal is.
Yeah.
I'm just, if you look at my life specifically, it's a little bit of a magnifying glass of that, but
Mhm.
that's everybody. So it's never about the goal.
Mhm.
It's about engaging in the journey and process. Like you see me, like I don't hum and haw with the lifestyle choices that I make because that's just what I do.
Yeah.
Because I'm so committed to being connected
Mhm.
to this mind body temple.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And, we had a long day yesterday, and I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to go do this because I know that deepens my connection to me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I did that thing. And after an hour and a half, I was back and we had dinner together.
Mhm.
So it's just like, these become non-negotiables over time
Yeah.
once we engage in the journey. And here's what it's worth, people listening. This is the richest, most beautiful, most worthwhile thing that we can do.
Mhm.
Like it really is. There's no vacation, home, car, purse, boots that are going to help you experience this.
Yeah.
Like that's just dopamine and it's going to come and go.
Mhm.
But
Totally.
this is sustainable. This is being on that constant place of gratitude, joy,
Yeah.
peace,
Beauty.
all
Yeah.
of the like the magic of
Yeah.
life. It's just like for me, I don't even, like forget about faith, hope. I like see life as magical and
Mhm.
anything and everything is possible.
Absolutely.
And I do this for the people who step into my ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, this is possible for you. And that's the space I hold. And a lot of times they don't trust me with it. But eventually, over time, if they hang out long enough, they step into that.
They're interested.
And we have stepped into that because of you.
Absolutely.
And I feel like people listening can feel that and can also feel it from us. But for me, it was like I'm a radical person. So as soon as I got a taste of a different way of being, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I want all of that. And I want to just remove everything that's not that. And I think there's people that are listening that feel that way now.
Yeah.
When I asked you this last night or this morning, what would you say they can begin doing right now to move them in that direction? I'm all about efficiency.
Yeah.
I'm all about being radical so you can get there faster. What does it take?
And moving in the direction of falling in love with the process. Is that the
Yeah.
specific
I
question?
think that's a no. I think moving in the direction of living life in the place he was saying of like pure bliss, pure beauty. That's a deep connection, like pure connection to self is really I think what this goal is.
Yeah.
How do you? What can they start doing now
Yeah.
to get them there faster?
I love it. So the first thing is understanding like, wow, like I've been given this gift of a body. I've been given this gift of a mind. I've been given this gift with the greatest technology on the planet called my intelligence and life force. And it's like the first thing is, how about I just connect with it?
Mm.
Like just literally connect with it. What's the simplest thing someone can do? Literally, someone can put their hand on their heart, close their eyes, and take in a few deep breaths and just feel your body. In fact, do that with me right now. Do that for a moment. When I do that, I can't help but put a smile on my face. It's like the simplest thing is nothing is required. You don't have to jump on Amazon and buy something. Like it's
Yeah.
all here for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like connect, touch your heart, touch your body, breathe into it. Sensory deprivation, turn off the noise from the outside world, get in nature. Like these are the simplest things that we can do. And just prioritizing that. I just want to connect with this.
Mm-hmm.
Like forget about all the noise. There's no goal or anything. I just want to be here right now with me in this mind, this body. That's the simplest thing someone can do.
And I think within that, though, you are starting to breathe, starting to meditate. What comes up, though, is the roaring of the life experiences that have led to this moment. Like, that's what I tuned into. I'm like, there can be a roaring. And that's why people are like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So then from that moment,
Yeah.
how can they begin to overcome the roaring?
Yeah.
And make that a pleasant experience when they are doing that,
Yeah.
because that's not always pleasant right away.
It's not always pleasant right away. So the first thing I say is listen to Matt and Monica more or hit rewind on this and go back to the piece of how we're built.
Yeah.
So
Good answer.
like I'm not here to feel good all the time. In fact, I feel crappy a lot of the time. Like I do.
Mhm.
I feel crappy. And I know that's the husk, the pattern, a part of my evolution and growth. Like, I don't know, like I don't spend a lot of time on social media and things like this, but I kind of feel like out there in the world, people have been duped into believing you're supposed to feel on fire, on purpose, happy, elated all day, every day.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you right now, okay, my background's in physiology. It is impossible for your endocrine system to release oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin in these abundant levels all day, every day. It is biologically impossible.
It's a very good point.
Good. It's shattered.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People
It's
need to know that
impossible.
it's shattered. That
It's-
paradigm is shattered.
It's okay to
Yeah.
feel a little down and feel a
It's
little bit.
okay. It's okay. Everybody experiences that. And it doesn't matter how healthy, how vitalized, how on purpose you are, it's cyclical. You will be mesmerized by the view on top of the mountain, and you will go back down into the valley. And that cycle continues. What I will say is what's gained with a bigger bandwidth in your nervous system is efficiency.
Mhm.
You move through
Mhm.
with a lot more grace and flow and a lot less friction. That's what starts to happen.
Mhm.
And so, if getting connected is bringing up that angst, well, that's a beautiful opportunity to be like, something is here. So, remember this: if you do that and this husk, this angst, this really bad feeling comes up, know you are carrying that backpack with you all day, every day.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And now you have the choice to do something about it. That's where, like, pick up the phone, call Rev,
Mhm.
Mhm.
call somebody else in your town. Start working with somebody to help the integration, the growth, and evolution of your system. Because no, don't get in the delusion that I'm not going to do that and just it's tucked away in your system.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
remember what I said, front side or back side. And these backpacks, that's what manifests into symptom, sickness, disease, illness on the other side of it.
Yeah.
So it is a time bomb ticking, waiting to go off. So knowing that, what a gift that people can do this and feel the angst and preemptively. It's like getting a scan saying, hey, if you don't correct course, you're going to end up with this crazy illness or disease.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
Yeah.
So that's a gift.
Yeah.
I think we also live in a world where everyone's like getting data, getting information, getting all these HRV, their blood testing, and their even though it's intentionally good,
Mhm.
it's still forcing them to look like outside of themselves. Even you said go to Rev, come see someone like you, someone in your town. And some people could still think that might be still going to get help. But what our message has always been learning from you, it's like we're not the healer. We're just helping you to pay attention to the wisdom, to the beauty. And that's like the total reconstruct. And I think that's probably
Yeah.
the first thing that needs to
Yeah.
happen, or
Yeah.
maybe it won't be the first thing, because maybe hope would be the first thing,
Yeah.
but it's a big part of the journey to realize that, oh, like I have all this, everything, first law of thermodynamics,
Yeah.
it's all within me. And if I can just really lean into that trust, this is where I can start making these messages. I don't need that Amazon package. I don't need that. So I think we're just so conditioned in this world to like be looking outside of us
Yeah.
based on our medical models, propaganda and pharmaceuticals, all this different stuff. So it's a lot of rewiring. So you said something earlier. It's simple. Simple doesn't mean easy.
Doesn't mean
So,
easy.
doesn't mean
And what I'll say, like in 25 years, I'm not gonna say I've seen every condition, but I've seen a lot, and a lot of complex, obscure, last resort, dude, because things are so complex. And I'll say in 25 years, I have not treated, have not fixed, have not healed a single condition.
Mhm.
Mm.
I simply, you guys, we work with the greatest technology on the planet because only that knows how to create cells with the correct shape, structure, function.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank God we don't have to do that
Thank
part.
goodness. Yeah. Like we just
That
get
would
it
be, there we are.
connected,
We'd be
we
working a
get it
lot more.
integrating, we get it processing. Like that's it. We're not treating, fixing anything.
Yeah.
We're just working with that technology. But here's the gift: when people start to, and you've seen this, the people who've been under care for years. I have this one woman who's 92 years old. She's been under care. She walked into my practice 7 or 8 weeks after I opened.
Mhm.
She still comes in, 92 years old. Her
Go
biggest
ahead, girl.
problem is all her friends around her are kicking the bucket. Now her friends are 15 years younger than
Yeah,
her.
our friends are 50-year-olds.
Yeah. Like she
From the
still
youngins.
she still drives.
So
She sings for a living at senior
Mhm.
center. She plays tennis. Like this is the gift. This is how we're designed. She's living life.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And she just like cultivates and nurtures that intelligence. And what starts to happen is we start making different choices
Yeah.
because we're no longer the person,
Mhm.
because we've got rid of those programs and networks. We've grown and evolved. We've moved into something greater than that.
Mhm.
So please, 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 like not from this video, not from other videos that Matt and Monica do, don't get into the delusion that things are going to be awesome all day, every day,
Mhm.
because that is a lie.
Mhm.
That is a total lie.
Straight up
It's a
lie.
straight up lie.
Yeah.
It's just not true.
But I think we all thought that. I thought that at some point. You thought
Yeah.
that at some point.
Yeah.
You probably thought that at some
For
point.
sure.
And it has to be
And
shattered.
it's
It has
fitting.
to be
It's a
shattered.
shattering moment for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's a
Yeah.
favor.
Yeah.
Yeah, of service.
And
Definitely.
when you know that, but know that, the views on the mountaintops, where you are within yourself, they just keep getting better and
Mhm.
better and better.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, it sounds a little bit facetious and ridiculous, but I'm a little bit embarrassed when, people say the certain thing. Oh, hey, Suki, how's it going? How are you, man? I haven't seen you in a while. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing okay. Like, oh, just okay. And I'm
Mhm.
like, the truth is, like, I'm living my best, most awesome life.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just don't want people to feel
Yeah,
bad.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
when I say that, people are like, oh, well, good for you. And
Yeah.
the conversation kind of
Well,
ends.
see you later.
Okay,
Yeah,
I thought
see
you were
ya.
being authentic because maybe you weren't feeling your best, which I think is really beautiful too.
Yeah.
Because it's so common. I was thinking when you were talking about that earlier, I forget what conversation we were having, but it's so natural for people to be like, hey, how are you doing? Good. How are you?
Good, man.
That
Yeah.
to me is nails on a chalkboard, and it's something I
Yeah.
can't dismantle
Yeah.
because it's so. But for us to also be authentic if you're not feeling good,
Yeah.
to be like, I'm doing my best today. I think you're good.
Totally.
I say that. I
Yeah.
say that. Yeah, like,
Totally.
and that's totally okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's also a piece that we're
Yeah.
programmed to think. Good, good,
Totally.
good. Okay, goodbye.
Yeah. And, pure authenticity. I've been in a phase in the last few months. I am living my best, most awesome life. And I'm just riding that. And I know it's, I'm on the mountaintop right now.
Mhm.
And it's going to come down. And it's all good.
Mhm.
It is what it is. So I'm just riding the wave.
And the longer you've been on it, similar to your infinity symbol in your book, Beyond Body, Beyond Mind, which is an amazing book, which everyone in the office usually gets. If you haven't read it, it's a really important book. The infinity symbol of as you evolve, this evolution of positive and negative swings gets smaller and smaller. And the sweet spot is that you don't get too high. You don't, when you're on the top of a mountaintop, like, life is awesome, life is great, and not being at an ungrounded state.
Ungrounded.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Like, we're sitting here on this deck. I know you can't see it. You see the chairs out there. That's where I have my morning brew. And I'll tell you, that tree right there has received more love and more gratitude from me in the past 7 years than I think it ever has in its life.
Yeah.
Like, I just look at it and I'm just so grateful seeing this tree for the gift of life. I see it go through the seasons and I hold this reverence for it.
Mhm.
So it's like, that's what mesmerized by the views on top of the mountain looks for me today.
Yeah. Not that you are doing it from this certain home and this certain zip code or postal code, but that the simplest things you have the most
The
gratitude
simplest
for. Yeah,
things,
yeah.
the simplest things. Like, I've said to you, like, I'm like, thank you for coming out here,
Yeah,
guys.
it's
Like, you've
genuine.
been so awesome. And for me, the greatest gift is like my daughter, OCN, who's 9 years old, came up to me yesterday. She's like, I don't want Rocky and Lion to go home. And she was like really sad. And I was like, oh, it just brought so much
Yeah.
so much joy to my
Yeah.
heart that she feels such a deep connection. I was just like, oh, this is beautiful. Yeah.
Well, we need to round out because Kate's been with the kids here for the last hour and a half. We gotta go relieve her. Anything else that you want to ask?
No, I'm just super fortunate and blessed to be here and to be able to have you on the podcast and just for people to connect with you in different ways. So
Awesome.
thank you for having us.
Thanks for having me.
And yeah.
Guys, I hope you guys found tremendous value in this conversation. I trust that you did. And if you did, please like, please subscribe, please comment, share with a friend. Until next time, have a wonderful day.